Captain Jin stood on the bridge of the Horizon Dawn and watched the stars bend around his ship. After 200 years of looking up at the night sky and wondering, humanity had finally done it. They had broken the light barrier. They had reached out into the endless dark, and the dark had answered back. The message had come 3 months ago. It was brief and direct. The Galactic Council wanted to meet. They had been watching Earth for decades, waiting to see if humans would destroy themselves or reach for the stars. Now that humanity had achieved faster than light travel, they were ready to talk. Jin looked at his crew. There were 40 people on this ship. Scientists, engineers, diplomats, and a handful of soldiers just in case. Everyone wore the dark blue uniform of the United Earth Space Agency. Everyone carried the hopes of 8 billion people back home. Ambassador Hana walked onto the bridge. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. First contact with alien life, the beginning of a new era for humanity. "How long until we reach the station?" she asked. Jin checked his display. 2 hours. The council gave us exact coordinates. They're waiting at a neutral station near the edge of their territory. Hana nodded. She looked nervous, but her voice was steady. "Have you prepared your crew?" "They know the drill," Jin said. "We're here to listen, to learn, and to make friends if we can. No weapons visible. No aggressive postures. We smile, we bow. We show respect." "Good." Hana turned to look at the view screen. Space stretched out before them, cold and infinite. "Do you think they'll accept us?" Jin wanted to say yes. He wanted to believe that intelligent beings from across the galaxy would welcome humanity with open arms. But he was a military man before he became an explorer. He knew that power and fear often spoke louder than hope. "I think they'll judge us fairly," he finally said. "That's all we can ask for." 2 hours later, the Horizon Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The council station appeared before them. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of anything humanity had ever built. Lights glowed along its curved surface. Ships of strange designs drifted around it like fish in an ocean. Jin's communication officer spoke up. "Sir, we're being hailed." "Put it through." A voice filled the bridge. It spoke perfect English, though there was a strange musical quality to it. "Human vessel Horizon Dawn. You are cleared to dock at Port 7. Welcome to Unity Station. Welcome to the Galactic Council." The docking procedure was smooth. Jin had to admit, whoever designed this station knew what they were doing. Within minutes, the Horizon Dawn was locked in place, and air pressure was equalized. Hana gathered her diplomatic team. Jin assigned 6 soldiers as escorts, then joined them himself. The airlock opened. They stepped into a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. The walls glowed with soft light. Gravity felt normal. The air smelled clean, almost sterile. A figure waited for them. It stood on 2 legs like a human, but that was where the similarity ended. Its skin was deep purple and covered in small scales. 4 eyes blinked at them from an elongated head. It wore robes of silver and gold. "Greetings," it said. Its mouth didn't move right, but the words were clear. "I am Vel, representative of the council. Please, follow me." They walked through corridors filled with aliens. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Jin's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. Creatures made of crystal, beings that floated without legs, something that looked like a living cloud of gas contained in a transparent suit. All of them stopped to stare at the humans. The council chamber was a vast circular room. 12 seats rose from the floor, each one occupied by a different alien species. At the center was a platform where Hana was directed to stand. Vel gestured for the humans to wait at the edge of the room. Jin and his team stood in silence as Hana stepped forward. "Honored Council," Hana began. Her voice was amplified somehow, filling the chamber. "I come before you as ambassador of Earth and representative of humanity. We come in peace. We seek knowledge, friendship, and a place among the stars." One of the council members leaned forward. It was huge, easily 3 meters tall, with thick armor-like skin and 6 massive arms. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding stone. You are young, very young. Your species has barely left its home world. Why should we allow you into our council? Hana didn't hesitate. Because we have much to offer and much to learn. Because isolating ourselves serves no one. Because the universe is vast enough for all of us. Another council member laughed. It was a sharp, cruel sound. This one looked vaguely reptilian, with golden scales and cold eyes. Offer? What can primitives offer to civilizations that have sailed the stars for 1,000,000 years? Jin felt his jaw tighten. He saw his soldiers shift uncomfortably. But Hana remained calm. We offer our perspective, she said. We offer our creativity and our determination. We offer friendship to those wise enough to accept it. The council members spoke among themselves in languages the translation devices couldn't handle. Jin watched them carefully. Some seemed interested. Others looked dismissive. The reptilian one kept staring at Hana with what could only be described as contempt. After an hour of discussion, Vel approached the human delegation. The council will deliberate. Please return to your ship. We will contact you with our decision. Back on the Horizon Dawn, the mood was mixed. Some crew members were excited, others seemed worried. Jin held a private meeting with Hana and his senior staff. What do you think? He asked. Hana frowned. I think we made our case. Now we wait. Engineer Day spoke up. He was young, barely 30, with quick hands and a brilliant mind. Sir, I've been monitoring the station's communication channels. There's a lot of encrypted traffic, more than there should be for a simple deliberation. Jin felt a cold sensation in his gut. Keep monitoring, and keep our engines warm. 3 hours later, alarms screamed across the ship. Day's voice came over the intercom, high and panicked. Multiple ships powering weapons. They're targeting us. Jin ran to the bridge. Through the view screen, he saw a dozen alien warships moving into position around the Horizon Dawn. Energy weapons glowed hot along their hulls. Hail them, Jin shouted. Demand an explanation. The response came from the reptilian council member. Its face filled the screen, and it was smiling. Your species is dangerous. Your kind spreads too quickly, adapts too easily. Better to end you now before you become a real threat. We came in peace, Hana screamed. We followed every protocol, and now you die. Consider it a lesson for any other young species watching. Jin grabbed the ship's controls. All power to engines. We're getting out of here. But they were too slow. The alien ships fired. Energy beams tore through the Horizon Dawn's shields like paper. Explosions rocked the ship. Crew members screamed. The lights flickered and died. Jin fought with the controls, but he knew it was over. He looked at Hana. She was crying, but her face was defiant. Launch the escape pods, Jin ordered. At least some of us might make it. Day ran. He ran through burning corridors and past dying friends. He reached an escape pod and threw himself inside. As the pod launched, he looked back through the small window. The Horizon Dawn exploded. It was beautiful and terrible. Fire bloomed in the void, and 40 souls died in an instant. Day's pod tumbled through space. Its emergency beacon was active. Its communication array was still working. With shaking hands, Day activated the recorder. This is Engineer Day of the Horizon Dawn, he said, his voice breaking. The Galactic Council attacked us without warning. They murdered everyone. Captain Jin, Ambassador Hana, all of them. Gone. They said we were too dangerous to live. They said, he sobbed, tell Earth. Tell them what happened. Tell them we tried for peace. Tell them. The pod's engines fired, carrying him away from the massacre. Behind him, the alien ships were already leaving. Their job complete. Back on Earth, 8 billion people received Day's message. They watched the footage he had recorded. They saw the betrayal. They saw the murder. And they made a decision. If the galaxy thought humanity was dangerous now, they hadn't seen anything yet. The time for peace was over. Now came the time for war. The news of the Horizon Dawn's destruction hit Earth like a bomb. Within hours, every screen on the planet showed the same footage. Day's shaking voice. The explosion. The casual cruelty of the council member who had ordered the attack. Riots broke out in major cities. People demanded action. Some called for revenge. Others wanted to hide, to pull back and never venture into space again. But most people felt something deeper, something cold and determined. They felt betrayed. And they would not forget. The United Nations held an emergency session. Every nation sent representatives. For the first time in history, there were no arguments about borders or resources or old grudges. Everyone agreed on one thing: humanity needed to be ready. Admiral Sung stood before the assembly. He was an old man, nearly 70, with gray hair and scars from a dozen conflicts on Earth. He had spent his life in war. Now he would spend what remained of it preparing for the biggest war humanity had ever faced. "We cannot let this stand," Sung said. His voice was quiet, but everyone listened. "The Council thinks we are primitives. They think we are weak. They murdered 40 of our people because they were afraid of what we might become. I say we show them exactly what they should fear." The vote was unanimous. Earth and all its colonies would unite under a single military government. They called it the Terran Defense Initiative. Admiral Sung was given complete authority over every military resource humanity possessed. The work began immediately. Dr. Yuna was pulled from her university laboratory and brought to a secret facility in the Australian outback. She was a physicist, one of the brightest minds of her generation. She had spent years studying quantum mechanics and energy fields. Now she was being asked to turn her research into weapons. "I became a scientist to build things," she told Sung when they first met. "Not to destroy them." Sung looked at her with tired eyes. "The Council destroyed the Horizon Dawn. They killed 40 innocent people who went to them in peace. We didn't start this, Doctor. But we will finish it." Yuna looked at the files they gave her. Salvage from the Horizon Dawn. Fragments of alien technology that had been recovered from the debris field. Energy readings from the weapons that had killed her colleagues. She sat down at her workstation. "Give me 6 months," she said. "I'll give you weapons that will make them regret everything." While Yuna worked on weapons, others worked on ships. Humanity's existing space fleet was laughable compared to what the Council possessed. Earth had maybe 100 ships capable of faster-than-light travel. The Council had thousands. But humanity had something the Council didn't: desperation, creativity, and the ability to learn from their enemies. Engineer Day, the sole survivor of the Horizon Dawn, refused to rest. He worked 20 hours a day, sleeping only when his body forced him to. The trauma of watching his friends die had changed him, made him harder, colder. He studied every piece of alien technology they had recovered. He took apart their shield generators and power cores. He learned their secrets and found their weaknesses. "Their technology is advanced," Day told a meeting of military engineers. "But it's old. They've been using the same designs for thousands of years. They stopped innovating because they didn't need to. No one challenged them." He smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "We're going to show them what happens when you get comfortable." The breakthrough came 8 months after the Horizon Dawn's destruction. Yuna ran into Sung's office at 3 in the morning, her eyes wild with excitement and exhaustion. "I did it," she said. "I figured out how their shields work. And I know how to break them." She showed him the weapon. It was small, barely the size of a briefcase, but the energy readings coming from it were incredible. "I call it the Reaper Protocol," Yuna explained. "It generates a quantum resonance field that disrupts the molecular bonds in their shield emitters. Once the field hits their ship, their shields don't just fail. They collapse catastrophically. The energy feedback can even damage their hull." Sung held the device carefully. "How many can you make?" "As many as you need." "But Admiral, there's something else." Yuna pulled up a holographic display. While I was studying their technology, I found something. A design flaw in their faster-than-light drives. If we build our ships differently, we can create vessels that can phase in and out of normal space. Ships that their sensors won't detect until we're right on top of them. Sung looked at the plans, then he looked at Yuna. Ghost ships, he said. We'll call them ghost ships. There's one problem, Yuna said quietly. The phasing technology is dangerous. There's a small chance, maybe 5%, that a ship could get stuck between phases. The crew would be lost forever, trapped in a space between spaces. Sung nodded slowly. I'll need volunteers. Men and women who understand the risk. Within a week, 10,000 people had volunteered. They were willing to risk everything for a chance to strike back at the Council. While the weapons and ships were being built, another operation was underway. Intelligence Officer Mina had volunteered for the most dangerous mission of all. She would infiltrate Council space. Mina was small and quick, with a talent for languages and an almost supernatural ability to blend in. She underwent genetic modification to make her appear more like some of the humanoid alien species. It was painful and dangerous, but she never complained. She was smuggled into Council territory on a civilian transport. For 2 years, she moved from world to world, watching and listening. She learned their languages. She studied their military deployments. She discovered their secrets, and she sent everything back to Earth. The information Mina provided was invaluable. She learned that the Council was not as united as they appeared. Some species had voted against attacking the Horizon Dawn. Others had only gone along out of fear of the reptilian Valtrix Empire, which held the most military power. She also learned something crucial. The Council was arrogant. They had defeated every enemy they had ever faced. They had maintained peace for thousands of years, simply because no one dared challenge them. The idea that humans might actually pose a threat was laughable to them. That arrogance would be their downfall. After 3 years of preparation, the fleet was ready. 200 ghost ships, each one crewed by volunteers who knew they might never return. 500 conventional warships, armed with Reaper Protocol weapons and armor that could withstand hits from Council energy weapons, and millions of soldiers, trained and ready for ground combat if necessary. Admiral Sung stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Defiant. Around him, his fleet waited in the darkness beyond the outer solar system. They had been practicing in secret, running drills and simulations until every crew member could perform their duties in their sleep. Day was there too, now a senior weapons officer. He had personally overseen the installation of the Reaper Protocol on every ship. Yuna was in the engineering section, making final checks on the ghost ship phasing systems. Sung looked at his officers. We know their positions. We know their weaknesses. We know exactly how they'll respond, because they think we're primitives who can't hurt them. He paused. Today, we teach them why you should never underestimate humanity. Today, we show them that we are not prey. We are predators. The fleet moved out. The ghost ships phased out of normal space, becoming invisible to sensors. The conventional warships followed, their engines burning cold to avoid detection. They had multiple targets. 12 Valtrix military outposts spread across 3 sectors. Each one was a staging ground for Council military operations. Each one would be a statement. In the cargo bay of the Defiant, Day sat with the crew and checked his equipment one last time. He thought about Captain Jin and Ambassador Hana. He thought about the 40 people who had died believing that peace was possible. We tried their way, he said to himself. Now we do it our way. The fleet reached the first target, a massive military station orbiting a gas giant. Hundreds of Valtrix warships were docked there, their crews relaxed and unprepared. Sung gave the order. All ships, weapons free. Show them what humanity can do. The ghost ships phased back into normal space. They appeared inside the station's defensive perimeter, their weapons already charging. The Reaper Protocol activated, and Valtrix shields collapsed across the entire station. The conventional warships opened fire from long range. Energy beams and missiles tore through now defenseless alien ships. Explosions blossomed in the void. The Battle of Station 12 lasted 40 minutes. When it was over, every Valtrix ship was destroyed or disabled. The station itself was a burning wreck, and humanity had sent its message. The galaxy would never underestimate them again. Across Council space, alarms began to sound. The Valtrix Empire, which had laughed at humanity 3 years ago, now scrambled to defend itself. But they were already too late. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it was very, very angry. Commander Tay watched the Valtrix home fleet burn. 17 massive warships, each one capable of destroying a planet, were now nothing but debris and bodies floating in space. His ghost ship, the Silent Knife, had appeared right in the middle of their formation, before they even knew humans were there. The Reaper Protocol had done its job perfectly. Their shields had collapsed, their weapons had gone offline, and then the rest of the human fleet had arrived and finished what Tay had started. All targets destroyed, his tactical officer reported. Enemy casualties estimated at 40,000. 40,000. The same number that had been on Earth's first colony ship. The same number as the population of Sol in the old days. It should have meant something. It should have bothered him. But Tay felt nothing except satisfaction. Good, he said. Move to the next target. We have 11 more stations to destroy before sunrise. The Valtrix Empire was the largest military power in the Council. For 3 million years, they had been the enforcement arm of galactic law. They had crushed rebellions and punished species that stepped out of line. Their very name inspired fear across hundreds of worlds. Now they were dying. Human tactics were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. The ghost ships would appear without warning, strike hard, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. The conventional fleet would engage from long range, using the Reaper Protocol to strip away shields, before overwhelming firepower finished the job. And on the ground, human soldiers proved to be something truly terrifying. Colonel Rena led the assault on Valtrix Prime's largest military base. 10,000 human soldiers against 50,000 Valtrix defenders. The aliens had better armor, better weapons, and the home field advantage. It didn't matter. Rena's soldiers moved through the base like water, flowing around strong points and flooding through weak spots. They used guerrilla tactics learned from centuries of warfare on Earth. They set traps, they used the environment, they fought dirty. The Valtrix had never experienced close-quarters combat like this. They were used to civilized warfare with rules and honor. Humans had no interest in playing by their rules. Remember what they did to the Horizon Dawn, Rena told her soldiers before the assault. Remember that they killed people who came in peace. We don't owe them mercy. We don't owe them honor. We owe them justice. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the base was in human hands. The Valtrix commander was found dead at his post, a human combat knife in his chest. The message was clear. Humanity had learned how to fight from thousands of years of killing each other. The Council was about to get a masterclass. Back at Unity Station, where the Horizon Dawn had been destroyed, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. The 12 species that made up the Council were no longer unified. Some wanted to negotiate with humanity. Others wanted to continue fighting. The Valtrix representatives demanded more military support. How is this possible? One council member asked. His species were peaceful traders who had never wanted to attack humanity in the first place. They were primitives 3 years ago. How are they defeating the Valtrix Empire? The Valtrix military commander slammed his 6 fists on the table. They fight without honor. They strike from nowhere. They show no mercy to prisoners. They are animals. An old alien from a species called the Kellery spoke up. His name was He, and he was one of the few council members who had voted against attacking the Horizon Dawn. Perhaps we should have thought of that before we murdered their diplomats. We taught them that honor means nothing. We taught them that mercy is weakness. Now we reap what we sowed. The chamber erupted in argument. Some agreed with He, others called him a traitor. But everyone could feel it. The fear creeping into their minds. Humanity was winning. Admiral Sung stood in the war room of the Defiant and studied the tactical displays. 6 months had passed since the first strike. In that time, humanity had destroyed 70% of the Valtrix military fleet. 3 Valtrix colony worlds had surrendered without a fight. 2 others had been blockaded until their populations were starving. The Valtrix are asking for a ceasefire, his communication officer reported. They want to discuss terms. Sung shook his head. No terms. They started this war by refusing to talk. We'll end it by refusing to stop. Dr. Yuna entered the war room. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes. Her hands shook slightly. Admiral, I need to talk to you about the new weapons. They walked to a private office. Yuna brought up schematics on a holographic display. We've developed something new. Cascade bombs. They trigger chain reactions in alien power cores. One bomb can destroy an entire fleet if the ships are close enough together. Sung studied the designs. Casualties? Total, Yuna said quietly. Nothing survives. No escape pods. No surrender. Just complete destruction. Can you live with that? Sung asked. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. I think about the Horizon Dawn every day. I think about Hana and Jin and all the others. They went looking for friends and found murderers. She looked at Sung with hollow eyes. So yes, I can live with it. Can you? Sung nodded slowly. Deploy the cascade bombs. Target any Valtrix fleet that refuses to surrender. 3 more council species made a terrible mistake. Fearing that humanity would turn on them next, they launched preemptive strikes on human colonies. The attacks killed 7,000 human civilians, men, women, and children who had nothing to do with the war. Admiral Sung's response was immediate and overwhelming. He deployed the cascade bombs against all 3 species' home fleets. In a single day, 40,000 alien ships were destroyed. Entire civilizations lost their ability to defend themselves. And then humanity did something that terrified the galaxy even more. They didn't destroy the planets. They occupied them. Commander Quan was put in charge of occupation forces. He was a hard man, but fair. He established what he called the Terran Order on conquered worlds. The rules were simple. No weapons. No resistance. No mercy for those who broke the rules. But for those who obeyed, life would continue. Some aliens chose death over human rule. They were accommodated. But most chose to live. They adapted. They learned that humans could be brutal enemies, but at least they were consistent. Follow the rules, and you would be left alone. Intelligence Officer Mina, still deep in Council space, sent regular reports. The Council was fracturing. Species that had been allies for millions of years were now turning on each other. Some blamed the Valtrix for starting the war. Others blamed those who had voted to attack the Horizon Dawn. 5 Council species withdrew from the Alliance entirely. They fortified their home systems and declared neutrality. 3 more surrendered to humanity without firing a shot. The Galactic Council, which had ruled known space for eons, was collapsing. Tay's fleet hunted down the remaining Valtrix warships. He had become famous across the galaxy. The aliens called him the Reaper, and they told stories about his ghost ships that appeared from nowhere. Some stories said he was a demon. Others said he was a machine, not human at all. The truth was simpler. Tay was just a man who had decided that the Council needed to pay for what they had done. And he was very, very good at making people pay. The final battle for Valtrix Prime lasted 3 days. The planet's orbital defenses were the strongest in Council space. Massive weapons platforms, thousands of ships, shields that could withstand anything. Humanity brought everything it had. 200 ghost ships, 800 conventional warships, and 50 cascade bombs. When the battle ended, Valtrix Prime's defenses were gone. The planet itself was intact, but powerless to resist. Human soldiers landed on the surface and began the occupation. The Valtrix Emperor was captured in his palace. He was brought before Admiral Sung via video communication. The Emperor was massive, easily 4 meters tall, with golden armor and eyes full of rage. "You have won," the Emperor said, "but you have doomed yourselves. The other council species will unite against you. You will be wiped out." Sung smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Your species killed 40 humans because you were afraid we might become a threat. You taught us that the strong survive and the weak die. Congratulations. You taught us well." The Emperor was silent. "The Valtrix Empire is finished," Sung continued. "Your military is destroyed. Your colonies are under human control. Your people will live under human law now. And if any other council species wants to try their luck against us, they're welcome to try. We've learned a lot from you. We'd be happy to teach them the same lessons." 6 months later, the Valtrix Empire officially surrendered. The documents were signed on Earth, in the same building where humanity had voted to create the Terran Defense Initiative. Half the Galactic Council was now gone. Dead, surrendered, or occupied. The remaining 5 species retreated to their core systems and built defensive networks. They stopped talking about honor and justice. Now, they only talked about survival. And on Earth, humanity built monuments to the Horizon Dawn. 40 statues in a garden of remembrance. Each one showed a crew member as they had been in life. Smiling. Hopeful. Believing in peace. Day visited the monument whenever he was home. He would stand in front of Captain Jin's statue and remember the man who had believed the best of the universe. The man who had paid for that belief with his life. "We tried it your way," Day would say to the statue. "We tried peace. They killed us for it. So now we do what humans do best. We survive. Whatever the cost." The war was not over. But humanity was winning. And the Galactic Council was learning a terrible truth. You should never attack someone and assume they'll forgive you. Some wounds never heal. Some grudges never fade. And humanity never forgot. The war had been going on for 6 years. 6 years since the Horizon Dawn burned. 6 years since humanity learned that the galaxy did not want them. General Wu stood on the bridge of his dreadnought and looked at the planet below. It was called Catharis, and it was the military headquarters of 3 council species that had just made a fatal mistake. They had attacked a human colony world. They had killed 15,000 civilians in the bombing. Now General Wu was here to deliver humanity's response. "Sir, the planet is hailing us," his communication officer said. "They want to surrender. Thanks for watching. They want to surrender." Wu shook his head. "Tell them we don't accept surrenders from species that bomb civilians. Tell them to prepare for scorched void protocols." The officer hesitated. "Sir, there are billions of civilians down there. Then they should have thought about that before their military killed our civilians." Wu turned to his weapons officer. "Begin the operation. I want every military installation, every shipyard, every weapons factory destroyed. Leave nothing that could ever threaten a human world again." The attack lasted 8 hours. Human ships moved systematically across Catharis, destroying every military target they could find. They didn't bomb cities. They didn't target civilians. But when they were done, Catharis could no longer wage war. It was a message to every other council species. Attack humanity, and you would lose everything. The Scorched Void doctrine spread fear across the galaxy. Other species looked at what happened to Catharis and realized that humanity was not interested in conquering territory. They wanted something more permanent. They wanted to make sure no one could ever threaten them again. Dr. Yuna worked in her laboratory on a space station orbiting Mars. She had not slept properly in weeks. Her latest project was the most ambitious yet. The cascade bombs had been effective, but she wanted something more precise. Something that could end entire species if necessary. She found it in genetics. The Human Genome Project had mapped every gene in human DNA over a century ago. Now Yuna was doing the same thing with alien species. She had genetic samples from all 12 original council races, and she was learning their weaknesses. "We could create bioweapons that only affect specific species," she told Admiral Sung during a secure communication. A virus that kills Valtrix but leaves everyone else untouched. A bacteria that shuts down Kellery nervous systems. We could end any war in days. Sung was quiet for a moment. Have you created any of these weapons? No, Yuna said. I've only done the research. Actually building them would require your authorization. Don't build them yet, Sung ordered. But make sure every council species knows we can. Fear is sometimes more effective than actual weapons. The information was leaked carefully. Intelligence Officer Mina made sure rumors spread through council space. Humans had cracked the genetic code of every species. They could create diseases that would wipe out entire planets while leaving human worlds untouched. The rumors caused panic. Some species began genetic research programs trying to protect themselves. Others simply despaired. How could anyone fight an enemy that could kill you at the molecular level? Meanwhile, 5 more council species surrendered. They signed treaties giving humanity control over their military forces. They agreed to Terran order occupation. They had no other choice. The Galactic Council, which had once ruled thousands of worlds, was now reduced to 5 species. And even they were not united. Councillor He, the Kelari representative who had opposed attacking the Horizon Dawn from the beginning, tried one last time to broker peace. He sent a message directly to Admiral Sung. Please, He's message said. I know my people cannot stop you. I know we are at your mercy. But I beg you to remember that not everyone on the council wanted this war. Some of us tried to protect humanity. Some of us voted against the attack. Please, show mercy to those who showed you kindness. Sung read the message 3 times. He thought about it for days. Finally, he sent a response. Councillor He, I remember that you voted against attacking the Horizon Dawn. I remember that you tried to help us. But your species benefited from council rule for millions of years. You enjoyed the peace that was built on crushing younger species. You may not have pulled the trigger, but you loaded the gun. There will be no mercy. Only justice. He received the message and knew it was over. The Kellery species began preparing for the inevitable human assault. But humanity had other problems to deal with first. The occupied territories were not all peaceful. Some aliens refused to accept human rule. They formed resistance groups. They sabotaged infrastructure. They attacked human soldiers. Commander Quan dealt with resistance movements with brutal efficiency. He would identify the leaders, arrest them publicly, and execute them in front of their people. It was harsh, but it worked. Most aliens learned quickly that resistance only brought more suffering. But Quan also showed that humans could be fair rulers. Occupied worlds that cooperated received food, medicine, and protection. Children were allowed to go to school. Families were left alone if they obeyed the law. The Terran order was harsh, but it was predictable. Some aliens even began to prefer human rule. The council had been distant and uncaring. Humans were present and involved. They built infrastructure. They established trade networks. They brought order to systems that had been neglected by the council for centuries. It was a strange situation. Humanity had conquered half the galaxy out of revenge, but they were proving to be better rulers than the species they had defeated. Not everyone on Earth was happy with what humanity had become. There were protests in major cities. People held signs saying this isn't who we are, and peace, not conquest. They remembered the ideals that Captain Jin and Ambassador Hana had believed in, but they were a minority. Most humans supported the war. They had seen the footage of the Horizon Dawn's destruction. They had lost friends and family in council attacks. They wanted the galaxy to pay. Admiral Sung gave a speech that was broadcast across all human territory. He stood at the monument to the Horizon Dawn, surrounded by the 40 statues. Some people say we have gone too far, Sung said. They say we should stop the war and seek peace. They say this is not who we are. He paused and looked at the statues. But I ask you, who are we? Are we the species that sent 40 people into space hoping for friendship? That species is dead. The council killed them. Are we the species that turns the other cheek when attacked? That species never existed. We have always fought for survival. The only difference now is that we're fighting aliens instead of each other." He pointed at Captain Jin's statue. This man believed in peace. He died for that belief. And I promise you, his death will not be in vain. But peace cannot exist while those who murdered him remain unpunished. Peace cannot exist while species that attack innocent humans remain armed and dangerous. So, we will fight. We will win. And then, only then, will we have the peace that Jin dreamed of. A peace built on strength. A peace that cannot be broken by anyone. The speech was wildly popular. Support for the war increased. Recruitment for the military reached record levels. Humanity was united in a way it had never been before. The remaining council species watched all of this with growing horror. They saw humanity's unity. They saw their military might. They saw their willingness to do whatever was necessary to win, and they realized that they had created a monster. Commander Tay's ghost ships now patrolled council space openly. They no longer needed to hide. Their reputation alone was enough to make entire fleets surrender without a fight. Tay had become the most feared name in the galaxy. He still felt nothing. No pride in his victories. No guilt for the deaths he caused. He had become exactly what he needed to be. A weapon. A tool of human vengeance. Sometimes, late at night, he would remember his life before the war. He had been a teacher. He had loved music and art. He had wanted to explore the galaxy and learn about alien cultures. That man was gone. The council had killed him just as surely as they had killed the crew of the Horizon Dawn. General Wu continued his Scorched Void campaign. Planet after planet lost its ability to wage war. Shipyards were destroyed. Weapons factories were reduced to rubble. Military academies were burned to the ground. Humanity was making sure that no council species would ever threaten them again. Some people called Wu a monster. He had destroyed the military capacity of 17 worlds. Trillions of credits worth of infrastructure gone. Millions of military personnel dead, but Wu saw it differently. Every shipyard I destroy is a shipyard that can't build ships to attack Earth. Every weapons factory I burn is one that can't create bombs to kill human children. I am not a monster. I am a protector. I do what is necessary so that humanity can be safe. Dr. Yuna continued her genetic research. She had now mapped the genomes of 47 alien species. She understood how their bodies worked at the most fundamental level. She could create weapons that would be invisible until it was too late to stop them. The knowledge haunted her. She had the power to commit genocide with a few vials of carefully engineered viruses. She had become death itself, but she kept working. Because if humanity didn't develop these weapons first, someone else might. And humanity could never afford to be vulnerable again. The war was in its 7th year. The Galactic Council had been reduced to 5 species. The Valtrix Empire was occupied. 3 species had been subjected to Scorched Void protocols. 7 had surrendered completely, and humanity was still not satisfied. Admiral Sung looked at the tactical maps and saw only one conclusion. The war would not be over until every species that had voted to attack the Horizon Dawn was either destroyed or under human control. How many more have to die? His second in command asked one day. Sung looked at the question for a long time. All of them, he finally said. Every single one who thought it was acceptable to murder diplomats. Everyone who benefited from that murder. They wanted to end humanity before we became a threat. Now we'll show them what a real threat looks like. The 5 remaining council species knew what was coming. They built defenses. They called in every military asset they had. They prepared for the final battle, but they all knew the truth. They had already lost. Humanity had won. The only question now was how much they would have to pay for their defeat. The diplomatic convoy appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system exactly at noon. 20 ships, each one flying the white flag of peace, each one carrying representatives from what remained of the Galactic Council. They had come to beg. Fleet Admiral Sung, now the most powerful human alive, watched the convoy approach from the bridge of the orbital defense station above Earth. He was 77 years old. The war had aged him. Gray hair, deep lines in his face, eyes that had seen too much death. But his mind was still sharp. And his memory was perfect. "Should we let them approach, sir?" asked his tactical officer. Sung nodded slowly. "Let them come. I want to hear what they have to say." The convoy was led by Counselor He. The old Kalari had not changed much in 7 years. But the hope in his eyes was gone. He knew what he was walking into. He knew that humanity no longer believed in mercy, but he had to try. Commander Yong escorted the council delegation through the human fleet. Yong was young, barely 30. But he had been fighting since he was 23. He had known nothing but war. It showed in the way he moved. Cold, efficient, dangerous. The aliens looked at the human ships with barely concealed fear. Every vessel was a weapon. Every station was a fortress. Humanity had turned its entire solar system into a military installation. No one could attack Earth now without dying in the attempt. "Impressive, isn't it?" Yong said to He. 7 years ago, we had maybe 100 warships. Now we have 10,000. And that's just what we keep here to defend Earth. We have twice that number spread across the galaxy. He said nothing. What could he say? The Council had created this. They had forced humanity to become a military superpower. Now they had to live with the consequences. The delegation was brought to a conference room on the orbital station. The room was large and cold. No decorations, no comfortable chairs, just a long table and harsh lighting. It was designed to be intimidating. It worked. Admiral Sung entered the room surrounded by his senior officers. General Wu, who had burned 17 worlds. Commander Tay, the Reaper who haunted alien nightmares. Dr. Na, who had replaced Yuna as head of weapons development after Yuna's mental breakdown. Commander Quan, who ruled over occupied territories with an iron fist. And standing quietly in the corner, Engineer Day, the only survivor of the Horizon Dawn. The man who had watched 40 friends die. He was here as a witness. As a reminder of why this war had started, Counselor He stood and bowed deeply. The other council members did the same. It was a gesture of submission, of surrender. "Admiral Sung," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "We come before you to discuss peace. 7 years of war have brought only suffering to both our peoples. We ask, we beg, for a chance to end this conflict and find a path forward together." Sung sat down slowly. He did not invite the aliens to sit. "You want peace," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," he said. "The Council offers full reparations for the attack on the Horizon Dawn. We offer access to all our technology. We offer humanity permanent seats on a reformed council with equal voting rights. We offer everything we have if you will only stop the war." Sung looked at Day. The engineer's face was stone, no emotion, just cold remembrance. "Commander Yong," Sung said, "show our guests the tour." Yong nodded and gestured for the delegation to follow. They walked through corridors of the station, passing human soldiers and workers. Then they entered an observation deck overlooking a massive shipyard. The shipyard stretched as far as the eye could see. Thousands of ships in various stages of construction. Weapons being loaded. Crews being trained. It was an endless factory of war. "This is just one of 40 shipyards we have operating," Yong explained. "We build approximately 100 new warships every month. We have recruitment centers on every human world. Millions of people volunteer for military service every year." He paused. "Do you understand what this means? Humanity's military-industrial capacity is still growing. We haven't reached our peak. We haven't even slowed down." One of the alien delegates, a being covered in crystalline plates, spoke up. "Surely you don't need all this. The war is essentially over. You've won." Yong smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Won? We haven't won until we're sure this can never happen again. We haven't won until every species in the galaxy understands that attacking humanity means extinction." They returned to the conference room. Dr. Na pulled up holographic displays. She was younger than Yuna had been, and colder. she had no moral qualms about her work. These are genetic profiles of every council species, Na explained. We understand your biology better than you do. We could deploy bioweapons that would kill specific species while leaving everyone else untouched. A virus for the Valtrix, a bacteria for the Kellari, a prion disease for the Kristans. She looked at the horrified delegates. We haven't deployed these weapons. Yet. But we could. At any time. This is madness, one delegate said. You're talking about genocide. We're talking about deterrence, Na replied coldly. You want to know why we'll never be attacked again? Because every species in the galaxy will know that attacking us means their entire civilization might be wiped out in response. Admiral Sung spoke again. You come here offering peace. You offer technology and reparations and seats on your council. But you misunderstand the situation. We don't want your gifts. We don't need your permission. We are not here to join your civilization. We are here to replace it. Counselor He felt his blood run cold. What do you mean? I mean, Sung said, standing up and walking to a window overlooking Earth. That the Galactic Council is finished. Your time as rulers of known space is over. Humanity will establish a new order. The Terran Empire, and every species will exist under our laws, under our protection, and under our control. You can't be serious, another delegate said. You would rule the entire galaxy? Why not? General Wu asked. You did it for millions of years, but you grew soft, complacent. You made decisions based on fear instead of wisdom. You attacked innocents because you were afraid of what they might become. That ends now. Commander Tay spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet, but everyone listened. I used to be a teacher. I taught children about art and music and the beauty of exploration. The council killed that man. They turned me into a weapon, and I am very good at what I do now. But I will never forgive them for taking away who I was. He walked up to Counselor He and looked him in the eyes. You voted against attacking the Horizon Dawn. I respect that. But your vote didn't matter, did it? Your voice was ignored, because the council was never about democracy or fairness. It was about power, and power always corrupts. He had tears in his eyes. We made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But does that mean you must become what you hate? Does that mean you must become tyrants? Yes, Sung said simply, because the galaxy has shown us that being kind gets you killed. Being peaceful gets you destroyed. The only way to protect humanity is to be so strong, so fearsome, that no one dares attack us. And if that makes us tyrants, so be it. Better to be a living tyrant than a dead idealist. The final terms were presented. Complete demilitarization of all council species. Human oversight of all planetary governments. Mandatory teaching of human history and language in all schools. Reparations that would take centuries to pay off. And permanent human supremacy in all interstellar affairs. These terms are impossible. One delegate protested. You're asking us to give up everything. You already lost everything, Quan said. We're just making it official. You can accept these terms and live as subjects of the Terran Empire. Or you can refuse and be destroyed. Those are your only options. The council delegates conferred among themselves for hours. They argued. Some wanted to refuse, to go down fighting with honor. Others accepted the reality. They had lost. There was no point in more death. Finally, Counselor He approached Admiral Sung one last time. Before we agree to these terms, I need to know something. Will you at least remember who you were? Will you remember Jin and Hana and their dream of peaceful coexistence? Sung walked to a wall where a picture hung. It showed the crew of the Horizon Dawn. 40 smiling faces. Hopeful. Innocent. Believing the best of the universe. I think about them every day, Sung said quietly. I think about what they wanted. What they believed in. And I think about how they died, begging for mercy that never came. He turned to face He. You ask if we'll remember who we were. But we do remember. That's the problem. We remember being weak. We remember trusting people who betrayed us. We remember asking for peace and receiving death. So yes, we remember. And we've learned from our mistakes. He bowed his head in defeat. Then there is nothing more to say. The council delegation signed the treaty. Every species that had voted to attack the Horizon Dawn was now subject to human rule. The galaxy had a new master. And that master had learned all the wrong lessons. Months later, Day visited the monument to the Horizon Dawn for the last time. He was old now, nearly 70. The war had taken most of his life. But he had lived to see humanity victorious. He stood in front of Captain Jin's statue. "We won," Day said to the stone face. "We beat them all. We're safe now. No one will ever hurt us again." He paused, and tears ran down his weathered face. "But I don't think this is what you wanted. I don't think this is the dream you died for." He looked at Ambassador Hana's statue. "You believed in bringing people together, in finding common ground, in peace through understanding." He laughed bitterly. "We found peace, but we achieved it through fear, through domination, through becoming everything the council was, only worse." As the sun set over the monument, Day thought about the price of victory. Humanity had survived. They had become the dominant power in the galaxy. They would never be victims again. But in saving themselves, they had lost something essential. They had lost their innocence, their hope, their belief that the universe could be kind. The Galactic Council had come begging for peace. They had offered everything they had. But it was too late. The damage was done. Humanity had learned that peace was an illusion, that only strength mattered, that mercy was weakness. 7 years earlier, the Council had destroyed a single ship and killed 40 people. They thought they were eliminating a potential threat. Instead, they had created an empire. The title echoed through history. The Galactic Council begged for peace. But it was too late. It became a warning. A reminder. A cautionary tale told to every species in the galaxy. Never attack someone and expect forgiveness. Never strike first and ask for mercy later. Never underestimate what people will become when you take away everything they believe in. The Council had learned that lesson, and they would spend the rest of their existence paying for their mistake. Humanity ruled the galaxy now. But sometimes, late at night, the old humans who remembered the time before the war would look up at the stars and wonder, was this victory worth the cost? Was survival worth losing their souls? They never found an answer. Because the truth was too painful to accept. They had won the war, but they had lost themselves, and it was too late to go back.